Today on Locked on Rockies. Well, there was an opportunity for back-to-back road series wins, but unfortunately, the Rockies fall flat.
You are Locked on Rockies, your daily Colorado Rockies podcast, part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day.
Rock on Rockies fans, welcome into the Locked on Rockies podcast for today, the 5th day of August in the year 2024. I'm your host of the Locked on Rockies podcast, Paul Holden, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk right here in the Locked on Podcast Network, where you can find your team every day. And if your team is the Colorado Rockies, guess what? You're in the right spot, because that's what we do around here each and every day, free and streaming on your favorite streaming services and available to you on the Locked on Rockies YouTube channel, where you can be part of the show. You can fire off your Rockies hot takes. You can let me know what's on your mind when it comes to the Colorado Rockies. Let me know what's on your mind when it comes to the Purple Pinstripes. Want to thank you so much again for making us your first listen of the day. Your support and tuning in all season long has been awesome. So really appreciate that. And really appreciate y'all tuning in. Today, we'll recap the Padres series, talk about, you'll see on the bar there, it says Padres set the example. I'll talk about what that means. Talk a little bit of our concerns for Cal Quantrill and Brenton Doyle, July's Player of the Month. I'm going to do all of that and more on today's episode of Locked on Rockies. But before we dive into everything today, got to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnMLB and use code LockedOnMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. So I'm watching this series right with against the Padres, and as usual, the first game, the Rockies win it. Then the Rockies lose in a close one, and you're like, all right. And then the finale happens, and you kind of see where I'm going with this. There's a reason why the Padres are at least still in the conversation every single year. Yes, the Padres have Padred. Yes, there's been this. Yes, there's been the issues beating the Rockies. Yes, there's been issues in the playoffs. Yes, there's been issues getting to the playoffs, XYZ. There is a lot of stuff to take away from the Padres. But I ask you, Rockies fans, and I'm serious when I ask you this question. Wouldn't you rather be a Padres fan? Wouldn't you rather be a Padres fan? Because when you, at least with the Padres, since they dove in and made those changes and made the moves and started bringing in big name talent, yes, it hasn't gotten them as far as they want to go, but it has been exponentially better than the Rockies. They have picked a direction. They have picked they have a philosophy. They have a plan in place. Every trade deadline since they have gone all in, they have traded in the offseason, they have traded at the trade deadline, and they have rebuilt and retooled their team in order to make it an effective one. And I bring this up because, look, this is a series, right? It's a series. You always play series in baseball. And if the Rockies aren't able to win these series against teams, yes, I know they're all in one stadium. Don't go back and forth. It's not like the playoffs. But it is kind of an example. If you can't beat the Padres 2 out of 3 times, your team's not good enough for the playoffs. If you can't win these series on the road, your team is not good enough for the playoffs. At least when we watch the Padres, that's a playoff caliber team. They have issues, they have flaws, but it's a playoff caliber team in which, when you expect them, if they match up against the Rockies in a 7-game series, you do expect the Padres to win that series more often than not, even with history telling you otherwise. I understand the Rockies record. I understand that, but the Rockies have never truly blown out the Padres. They've never had a season record in which they don't have 1 or 2 more wins than the Padres in the head-to-head matchup. The Padres make trades. The Padres are aggressive. The Padres go after players. The Padres develop talent. The Padres do a lot of stuff the Rockies wish they did. It's just they have a weird curse against the Rockies in which they usually struggle. But that was one of my main takeaways from this. It's that the Rockies aren't on the same level as the Padres, even with the season record. I understand the Rockies have played the Padres well. I do get that. But it still misleads me, because the barometer should be beating not only your division rivals, but beating them well in the season series, not just 1 or 2 games, not just this or that. when the Rockies are handling the NL West and actually winning these series, taking these series on the road and making it so it's not just the Padres they play well, but against the rest of the NL West and really the rest of baseball, I'll buy into it that they're on the right path, that they're on the right direction, that they're moving in the right ways. But I still sit here and I just I do again. I just wonder the lack of focus, the lack of overall direction. It's kind of on display there. The Padres have had an operating system for a while now, and it leads to a more entertaining team. It leads to a more entertaining product on the field. It leads to more people being interested in what you're doing. The Padres have been an interesting team for years now. While they have fallen short multiple times of expectations, that is to be true. It still doesn't take away from the fact that they're one of the more aggressive trading teams, one of the more aggressive offseason teams, one of the more aggressive teams in making changes and doing things differently and building upon a philosophy in which you can add some of the biggest names in baseball to your lineup. And it's not just to get the Rockies love having veteran players and star power names, but they don't have anything close to what the Padres have put together. I mean, you just look at the names: Bogarts, Machado, Sung Kim, Arias. I mean, there are some names mixed in with the fact that they got pitchers that are some of the best in the business. This is the Padres are a team that hasn't been afraid to take risks, and those risks have resulted in them constantly building a roster that's good enough to beat the Dodgers, that has beaten the Dodgers, that's good enough to make the runs. They just haven't done it. And when you compare it to the Rockies and when you compare it to the firepower in the lineup, it just gets overwhelmed. Jake Cave's batting 2-hole in yesterday's game. The names don't jump out at you that the Rockies have. And I know it's a rebuild, and I know that they're these younger guys, but it's, again, this is what this lineup, sticking with this lineup after the trade deadline, you just see that it's like, whoa. The difference between a playoff caliber offense, the difference between a playoff caliber team, the difference between a winning team was on full display. The Padres have depth. The Padres have talent across the board. And the Rockies, instead of like I said, this is what happens with the lack of the trade deadline. We have to go out and we have to say, all right, these guys are going to be good enough to go and take down these teams that are sharpening up and getting ready and going for the playoffs. And yes, the Rockies almost won this series. I'm not denying the fact that the Rockies were one run away in a close ball game in game number 2 there against the Padres from back-to-back road series wins. But the Padres won. The Padres had the depth. The Padres had the guys that were going to come up. The Padres had the players that shut the door and rebounded. The Padres were the ones that were in control for most of that series, not the Rockies. So my point is, when I look at it's just a comparison of the lineups, when the names and the talent, you just get kind of shocked and surprised about how much the Padres have struggled against the Rockies. But then you realize they're a team that's still 9 games above 500 and a team that's very much in the not only the wild card race, but the race for the National League West. 4.5 back. Plenty of time to go. It's interesting. The Padres are cursed against the Rockies, but I'd still wish the Rockies operated like that. I still wish the Rockies operated in a mindset that made them aggressive, that made them a team that oh man, look, did you see that aggressive move? Did you see them do that? It's not the magic cure-all solution, and you can't just copy somebody else's success and paste it over to your own. But it just goes to show you that there are 2 massive differences in the front office philosophies between these 2 teams. And it's interesting to see how that's panning out since the playoffs for the Rockies and since the Padres were making changes within their organization to become a team with more firepower. Missed opportunity for the Rockies, especially when they were looking to salvage that road trip there. Back-to-back series wins would have given the Rockies a nice feel-good feeling there after getting swept by the Giants. But the Rockies end up only picking up 3 wins on this California road trip here. And that is, what is that? 6, 3. So they went 3-7 on this road trip. Road Rockies baseball. But the good news is they're back at home. The bad news is it's against 2 best teams in the NL East, the Mets and the Braves. We'll see how that goes for the Rockies coming up here after as the off day for the Rockies continues here. But let's shift focus to Cal Quantrill and the concerns we have there. Coming up next on today's episode of Locked on Rockies. Before we do that, though, got to tell you about the folks that help make this show possible, and that includes Liquid IV. When you're taking in America's pastime, don't forget to hydrate with Liquid IV's Popsicle Firecracker flavor, a surefire summer hit. What is that flavor, you ask? Well, it's a festive blend of citrus-fueled lemon, lime, tart cherry, and raspberry flavors, all to enhance your water drinking experience. Get hydrated with electrolytes, essential vitamins, and clinically tested nutrients from the #1 powdered hydration brand in America. All you do, grab a glass of water, pick your favorite flavor of Liquid IV, open it up, pour it in, mix it up, and you are going to enjoy the benefits of Liquid IV. Well, it's powered by LIV Hydra Science, and that's an optimized ratio of electrolytes and essential vitamins and clinically tested nutrients that turn ordinary water into extraordinary hydration. Tear, pour, live more. 1 stick plus 16 ounces of water hydrates better than water alone. 3 times the electrolytes of leading sports drinks, 8 essential vitamins and nutrients, always non-GMO, vegan, gluten-free, dairy-free, and soy-free. No more thirsty summers when you indulge in hydration with Liquid IV. Get 20% off your first order of Liquid IV when you go to liquidiv.com and use code MLB at checkout. That's 20% off your first order when you shop Better Hydration today using promo code MLB at liquidiv.com. This is the Locked on Rockies podcast for free and streaming on your favorite streaming services, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk right here on the Locked on Podcast Network, where you can find your team every day. And again, thanking you for making us your first listen, but your second listen, you can go check out the Locked on MLB podcast. Paul Sullivan, a.k.a. Sully, is here to provide daily national expertise with his trademark humor to help you get ready for the playoffs here in the dog days of summer. Prepare for the Fall Classic with Sully, who has it all covered every single day on Locked on MLB, available on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day. And don't forget, your Rockies play-by-play action available to you on SiriusXM and the SiriusXM app. Okay. Time to officially be worried about Cal Quantrill, folks. The decline of late has been a bummer. The issues, of course, are something that we have to keep our eyes on, but still able to keep things relatively in line here. But because a couple of starts there, you look in a couple of moments, you're like, all right, it wasn't too bad there. But the last 2 starts, especially a start against Cincinnati, half of his last 6 starts have been poor. The numbers are going up as the season is going on for Cal Quantrill, not in a good way. Strikeouts are decreasing, walks are increasing, kind of fluctuating more with walks. It's kind of a similar holding pattern, so not necessarily a massive increase or decrease in the walks, but batting average up, whip up. So there's plenty of things to be concerned about here for Cal Quantrill. And probably a big reason why the Rockies were unable to find a suitable deal or something where they felt confident in the deal. Teams might have cooled off on him. Quantrill has not had a start with no earned runs allowed since the middle of June. And actually, no, I'm sorry. Had one at the start. Nope. Wait, hold on. Let me make sure. Nope. Middle of June was the last time that Quantrill had a scoreless outing. And in that time, since middle of June, Cal Quantrill has had 2 starts that have only allowed 3 earned runs. But after that, a minimum of at least 3 earned runs allowed in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 starts. Take out 2 of them. So 7 starts there for Quantrill. He has allowed at least 3+ earned runs. That was a different for him in May, in which in the entire month he didn't have anything over 3 earned runs. So unfortunately, when you're starting to look at things, it's starting to kind of unravel a little bit for Cal Quantrill. Not in a situation in which he can't reverse this, but it's in a situation in which you kind of start. It's kind of a back to earth moment, right? It's kind of a reality check type of situation for Cal Quantrill here, especially when you look at it. It's been a mix of home and road too. He's had the home starts have been better than the road starts for Cal Quantrill. He has on the road given up those at least 3 runs on the road. The 2 earned runs for Cal Quantrill, the 2 starts that he hasn't given up at least 3, both were at home. So interesting to see Cal starting to have some difficulties on the road as well. Kind of now another situation in which the Rockies start struggling away from home. The Rockies are having a little bit of issues there. I still think Cal Quantrill's fine. I mean, as much as I do think the Rockies could have been more aggressive in shopping him, he is someone that does help your ball club and does add some depth into this rotation. It's just unfortunate to see the trend here. The July ERA was 7.54 for Quantrill in 5 starts there. When you're looking at strikeouts to walks, the ratio is not really as much as I'd like it to be. He's been walking batters, at least 2 walked batters in his last 4 starts, and at least 2 walked batters in 5 out of his last 6 starts. Not going, he's had a couple of moments in which he's gone into the 6th, but back-to-back starts in which he's unable to get through fully through the 4th. Only goes 3 2/3 against the Angels on July 30th, and then 4 1/3 there against San Diego in the finale. And the Rockies need Cal Quantrill. I mean, plain and simple, the Rockies need the starters to get to put themselves back in situations in which they can win. But we need to continue to see if Quantrill can make some adjustments here, because like I said, the trends since the end of May are all going up in the wrong directions, really across the board. Their opponent average against, ERA, all the stuff. So the concern level starting to rise. The some positive news here: he still hasn't reached the highest walk month total yet. That was in April. I mean, he's come close now in back-to-back months in June and July with 11. It's just the problem where I just don't. Man, walks just drive me nuts, and to see, and they're not a ton of them, but it's consistently having walks there in there. I know that it's tougher than ever to not walk batters given the 3 true outcomes, but it's still something that just boils my blood. So it's really the length. It's the lack of length in games. It's the increase of the offenses have figured out Cal Quantrill. So at least in terms of they got a much better understanding of him. They got a much better understanding of what's happening here versus at other points in the season. So Cal's gonna have to start reversing course here, because the trends are worrisome. And he starts off the month yesterday with the performance with more walks than strikeouts. So and you hate to see that, as well as the long ball. Not been the biggest issue for Quantrill so much this year. But the 2 home runs yesterday almost bring him up to the total that he allowed in the entire month of July, which was 3 home runs he allowed in the month of July, and he's already given up the 2 in the 1 start there. So unfortunate for Cal, unfortunate for the Rockies. We got to see him get a bounce back going on here, because unfortunately, things are going. He's going through a tough stretch here for the Roccos here. Last 7 games, a whip up at 1.70, 27 earned runs, 14 walks, 28 strikeouts, and 32 1/3 innings pitched, allowing 41 hits. Does have a win in that time against Boston there. That start against Boston, which was a pretty good one. But unfortunately, back-to-back starts where Cal Quantrill far from sharp, and unfortunately not helping out the Rockies there. So we'll keep our eyes on that. We'll keep monitoring the Cal Quantrill concerns. Let's look ahead, and let's also talk a little bit of Brenton Doyle coming up next here on today's episode of Locked On Rockies. Before we do that, though, got to tell you about the folks that help make this show possible, and that includes PrizePicks. PrizePicks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. PrizePicks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike other apps on PrizePicks, it's just you against the numbers. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections, hits, strikeouts, walks. You know, the list goes on, and you can watch the winnings roll in. You can get 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as little as 4 correct picks. You can turn $10 into $1,000 with PrizePicks. You could turn $10 into $1,000 watching Team USA rack up the gold medals this summer. You can make a PrizePicks lineup of players across basketball, soccer, tennis, golf, and more in as little as 60 seconds. Just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections, and you're locked in. Players, stats, see it all for yourself. Go test your sports knowledge when you download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. That's code LOCKEDONMLB on PrizePicks for a deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. This is the Locked On Rockies podcast. We are free and streaming on your favorite streaming services, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where you can find your team every day. You're in the right spot if you're a Colorado Rockies fan, or you just like baseball and you wanted to learn more about the Colorado Rockies. Well, guess what? That's what we do. We talk Rockies baseball every day, free and streaming. Check it out. When you like the videos, when you subscribe, when you do all that stuff, you are helping out big, big, big time. Really, really do appreciate that. Let's see here as well. Folks, Brenton Doyle's the catch of Brenton Doyle. The defense of Brenton Doyle. He's hitting home runs. Brenton Doyle, I think, is rocketing up the favorite Rockies list for a lot of people. And he should have won Player of the Month, as we talked about last week, but it was official. He was the Player of the Month in July, batting .333 and .800 slugging, a 1.194 OPS with 11 home runs. Wow. Crazy, crazy, crazy. And here's some more from Purple Row. Over 24 games in July, the Colorado Rockies center fielder slashed .333, .394, .800, including 7 doubles, 1 triple, 11 home runs, and 27 RBI. His 19 extra base hits led MLB, while his 11 home runs tied with Oakland's Brent Rooker. And in addition, Brenton Doyle's 72 total bases led the National League. He also ranked second in slugging and OPS. And let's see. From July 1st to 3rd, Doyle became the 3rd player in the modern era to have 3 doubles, 3 home runs, and 1 stolen base in the first 3 games of any month, joining Jeff Kent and Larry Walker. In 8 games from July 1st to the 9th, Doyle went 15 for 27, batting .555 with 5 doubles, 6 home runs, 11 RBI, 6 walks, and 1 stolen base, joining Larry Walker, Reggie Jackson, Willie Mays, Lou Gehrig, and Babe Ruth as the only players to post those numbers across an 8-game span. Earlier this week, Doyle was named the Rockies 2024 Heart and Hustle Award winner. This award from the MLB Players Association recognizes active players who demonstrate a passion for the game of baseball and best embody this value, spirit, and traditions of the game. That sums it up, folks. Thank you, Purple Row. Thank you, Renee, for summarizing all of that for us. That's greatness. That is when I know we were talking about star power, right? Brenton Doyle continues to build and build and build towards star potential. The Rockies have long been looking for a center fielder that can do what Brenton Doyle has done. It's going to be the consistency part for Brenton Doyle. It's going to be getting this done season after season for Brenton Doyle. It's going to be a thing of consistency through the career. But this year, we can at least sit there and say he saw what the issues were last year, and he made the adjustments. Brenton Doyle understood the assignment this offseason and has been taking the necessary steps not only to get better, but to start entering in a position where he can really become an impactful player and really change the game for the Colorado Rockies. Gold Glove defense in center field, elite base stealing speed, and now an offensive threat with power. I mean, those tools are really, really, really good ones to have at Coors Field. His personality, his mentality, he seems to be exactly the type of guy the Rockies need in this lineup, and exactly the type of guy that they need roaming center field. That catch in center field is one of the best catches of the season, and arguably that's a catch of the year nominee that Brenton Doyle has, on top of being an NL Player of the Month, on top of being one of the better players in baseball for the entire season. Brenton Doyle's a stud. And hopefully that this is the first example of some players who start to break out of their shells a little bit here and start formulating the next the next run for the Colorado Rockies. It's really great that this last year we kind of got we built our confidence and we're getting excited about Ezequiel Tovar. Nolan Jones was in that list as well. And unfortunately that this season's been a wash for him. But now this season we get to build off of Brenton Doyle. So if the Rockies can keep getting these players to break out each season, putting them together and hopefully organizing into a solid stretch of baseball here or in the future, you never know. But it's good to see that the Rockies getting the recognition even when it's been tough. It's tough to get anything positive said about the Rockies. It's tough to get anything positive going about the Rockies. But without a doubt, the Rockies had the best player in the National League in the month of July. Brenton Doyle was unbelievable in July, and hopefully he continues to be unbelievable for time to come, because when you're looking for reasons to watch the Rockies, he is probably the number one, if not the number two reason to watch the Rockies. I can't really think of anything in 2024 that has been more entertaining than Brenton Doyle. Ezequiel Tovar, I think, could be the only one, the only other option there in terms of that category. Regardless, the steps forward here on offense and the he's not too old. I mean, there's just a lot of the ceiling just kind of seems to be increasing for Brenton Doyle, and I'm really, really enjoying seeing that, and really, really enjoying seeing what he does. He really does have a great energy. He really does have a lot of confidence in his abilities, which just makes it more entertaining and more exciting when he's out there tracking balls down there and robbing home runs. I mean, when he's taking the angle on that ball, when he's tracking that ball down there to rob the home run, he looks completely confident. He looks completely in there. And then after he gets it, it's like it's no big deal for him at this point. Making big plays is what's in the DNA for Brenton Doyle. And what does he do in the finale? He also hits another home run. I mean, he has just been so awesome for the Rockies this year. Easily one of the best, if not the best storyline for the club. Rockies look to get back in action here, back in the win column here, as a lot of folks are calling the win for the road to 61. The 61 wins for those that took the over, 60.5 wins for the Rockies. They're going to look to get back on track against the Mets and the Braves here, both coming into town before an NL West road trip to Arizona against the Diamondbacks, and then another homestand where the Padres will be back in town. So Padres will be the Rockies will finish up their season series against the Padres here sooner rather than later. We'll see how that all shakes out there. But the Rockies certainly are looking forward to being home after being that's a long California road trip here. First home game for the Rockies since July the 24th. So been a long stretch there for the Roccos, who certainly will look to Coors Field with open arms. Folks, that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Rockies. Thank you so much for joining us. Tomorrow, we'll get into more series preview stuff, more look at the matchups and things like that as we get ready. But no Rockies baseball tonight. So, folks, you can just enjoy this podcast as your Rockies baseball for the day. That's going to do it for us today, folks. Thank you so much for making us your first listen of the day. We are free and streaming on your favorite streaming services. We're also available on the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel. When you like the videos, when you subscribe to the videos, when you leave comments, when you do all that stuff, you're really helping the show grow, and I really, really appreciate that. We are on the road to 1,000 YouTube subscribers. Almost there, less than 100 to go here as we're going through the second half of the season. Would love your support there. And folks, until next time, this has been the Locked On Rockies podcast. I've been Paul Holden. So long. from the Locked On Rockies podcast. Oh, wait, before we go, second listen, Locked On MLB and more Colorado sports coverage. Locked On Broncos, Locked On Avalanche, Locked On Nuggets, Locked On Buffs. Go check it all out. Now, I'm Paul Holden saying so long from the Locked On Rockies podcast.